G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I want to do today is extend and add another episode to my sub-series of all that I've learnt from Tony Robbins over the years. I'm going to add another episode to the 365 videos that I plan to put together. This will be video number 71, I think. So a lot of good work. So I'm about 20% of my way through my dream. And for those who are wondering where the hell I am, I'm up here at Port Stephens at the moment at a place called Mount Tomaree, and I'm just heading for a walk and want to show off this new platform, these new stairs that they've constructed over the past year to make it more family friendly. So when you come to Mount Tomaree, there's a magnificent platform at the top there which gives you some wonderful uninterrupted coastal views down south, out to the east, up to the northeast, and across to the west over Shoal Bay. But what I want to do before I kick off my vlog for today on competition and on how important it is to compete and how excellence is the new good, is the new standard, what I want to first do is I just want to show you and just spend a minute to talk to you about how things have changed over the years. Today in 2023, we've got all of this man-made infrastructure which helps facilitate the safe climb to the top on paths which are either concrete or just pressed rock with steps, making it ever so easy and safe. But once upon a time, when my children were young, this was the path that led to the top. As you can see, there are a number of trees that have been felled. I think what they're doing is they're just cleaning up the area. But if you focus up there, that's how it used to be. It used to be rock, big rocks, and the path to the top back in time was where the water used to run down the mountain and create like a little brook. And that little brook area, or that little path that had been made from the water, ended up becoming the path to the top. So I'd come up here with my kids when they were young. I came up here with my mother when she was in her, I guess, 50s. And we used to walk from the bottom to the top over this sort of terrain in order to make it to the summit. So it was interesting, to say the least. And with time, what they're doing now is that they're adding in paths. So that's how the path looks now. And I'll take that path now and just take it down. But what I want to try and say to you is that it wasn't always this easy. It wasn't always this accessible. And what you see today is based on a lot of investment, a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of time to make it more people friendly. But I do miss the times where we used to have to walk up the rocks to the top, because it was, and it felt like, a great achievement. So what we'll do now is we'll just go for a walk and talk. I'll take this other path, this new path that is being created, and I don't quite know where it's going to end up, but I believe that it may lead us to the gun placements which are further down. And what we'll do is we'll do a bit of a walk and talk, and I'll continue to express and share with you all of the lessons, all of the great lessons that we've learnt from the big man, Anthony Robbins, over the years. And as I say, what I want to do is I want to put together a tribute series of 365 videos to capture, where possible, and to commemorate the great work that the big man has done. So at the recent UPW, one of the key points that Anthony Robbins made was that the key to having an extraordinary life is by upholding and lifting your standards. But in order for everybody to have a good life, everybody is called upon to lift their standards, is the message from the big man. Because what's happened is that with time, with the advent of social media, with the advent of smartphones where we can take photos and we can share things instantly, there is a lot more compare and contrast. There are many more opportunities these days to compare and contrast what you are doing to what other people are doing. So in and of itself, it creates a new platform for competition where people compete with each other for attention, where people compete with each other for trophies in terms of what they've done and who they've done it with, and how much fun and how great their life is. But what Anthony Robbins says is that competition is good because it allows us to lift our standard and to be able to benchmark and baseline ourselves against people who we want to see or want to compare ourselves to as our peers. But what it does is that, as I say, it lifts the standard across the board. So it's a little bit like a rising tide will lift all ships. But Anthony Robbins says something which is very, very profound, and it's got me thinking as well, because he says something here which I agree with. So being good at something is not enough these days to keep your job. It's not enough to be fulfilled, because the standards across the board are changing. If you're good at your job these days, then chances are you won't have your job for very long, because the standard in the work environment has changed. I remember years ago when I was working at IBM, there was a group of managers, very, very good managers. IBM is probably one of the best companies I've ever worked for. And we had a number of managers there, and we had one of the financial accountants. I forget her name, but I still remember her face. And she went to her manager and asked him for a pay increase because she wanted to get paid more. She wanted a promotion, and she went and provided a case to a manager and said to a manager, "Look, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a great job, and I deserve more money." And her manager back then, I think his name was Andrew Anastasiades, who was a financial controller, said to her, he said, "I hear that you're doing a great job, and I acknowledge," he says, "I acknowledge that you're doing a great job. There's no doubt about it, you're doing a great job. But what you need to understand is that we are paying you to do a great job. And if you weren't doing a great job, then you wouldn't have your job in the first place. You know, we'd have somebody else replace you." So I remember hearing that back then and saying to myself, wow, how bold is that of the financial controller to actually tell her that she's expected to do a great job in order to keep it. That's what they say these days. So in order to keep your job, you need to be doing a great job. But since then, the things have gotten even tougher for those out there who are working in corporate land, because the new standard now is the standard of excellence. And I remember in those early years when I was working at IBM, I came across a book from Tom Peters, and the book was entitled In Search of Excellence, where people were called upon, were asked to continuing to improve their skills, their capabilities, so that they can become excellent. Because these days, without a doubt, in corporate world, you need to be excellent in what you do, and you need to be an excellent performer just to keep your job. So being good is not good enough anymore. And this is the important and key lesson that we need to pass on to our children and grandchildren, that they need to keep on honing their skills. They need to keep on working harder and harder and building up the necessary experience, because if they are going to want to grow and develop and to take on some bigger and more interesting challenges in the future, then they are going to need to be excellent in every way in order to get an opportunity to be put in front of those opportunities, and to have the ability to have a crack at the opportunities that are going to be presenting themselves over the years. So competition requires us these days to be better than good. Standards have increased because of this competition, and there are more and more opportunities. There are more and more platforms that facilitate comparison and measurement than ever before. So the catch cry and the call to action from the big man is that we need to understand and we need to appreciate the fact that the world is changing, and changing quite rapidly, and that the new call for each and every one of us is to become specialists and to become the very, very best of the best, in order to be able to protect our wicket, to protect our jobs, and to protect what we have available to us. So I don't know where this path leads, but I'll just keep on walking along here, and we'll just have a look at a few more So once again, the big man reminds us that we need to push and continue to push for the new standard, and the new standard is excellence. The new standard is being excellent, being outstanding. And it's only when you lean just outside your comfort zone, or continue to lean just outside your comfort zone, that you're going to be able to grow incrementally, step by step, and eventually celebrate and be rewarded with the benefits of that investment that you make in excellence. I'll just keep on pushing through the bush here. As I say, I don't know where I'm going, but that's one of the fun things about being an adventurer. We just take paths and we just see where they lead us. Just hope we don't find a snake along the way. But The other key message that Anthony Robbins shares with everybody is that each path, just like this path that I'm on here today, each path will have some obstacles in the path. Each path will have barriers, will have potholes, will have humps. And each hump in the road, each barrier, each pothole will impact different people in different ways. And what Anthony Robbins says is you can't stop a person who knows where they're going, and at the same time you can also realise that the further you go along the path, the less competition you're going to find, because most people, when they reach a barrier, here we go. Most people, when they get to a junction, tend to lose momentum, give up hope, and end up backtracking. So here we are. I've got to a point up here on the other side. We're at a gun placement. So this used to be a gun placement back in World War I, World War II. And I remember years ago coming up here and somebody making their way up to the top there and just being able to look on the other side, but I can't see a path leading up there. There must be a path, and I guess over the years a path will appear where you can go to the top there and you're just on top of the world. So what Anthony Robbins reminds us of, once again, is that each path has a barrier or two, and it takes courage to get through a barrier. It takes commitment to keep on going, even though you don't know where it may lead. And let me just get through the tree here. So you can go down the stairs there, but I'll stick up here actually. It's just as nice to be up here. And there's Mount Yakabar on the other side. So the message once again is that keep on going, because as you move along a path, any path, doesn't matter how many barriers you have along the way, how many humps, if you've got the momentum, you've got the drive, you can get through, over, under those barriers. What it will do is it'll get you to a place where you can have a view, and then you can decide whether or not you can go forward or you turn back and go the other way. And the further we go along a path, the less and less people will be on that path. The lesser the competition we will have is one of the key messages from the big man Anthony Robbins. And for that reason, you've got people like Elon Musk and other leaders, Bill Gates and other leaders, who fought hard to get over those initial humps and all of a sudden find themselves in free air, free space, a place where there is no competition or no possible competition, because they're in a place where there are few people who have the courage to push into and to climb into, because their fears, their uncertainties and doubts have ceased their progress along the way. And there are people who don't want to have anything to do with the road less travel. They want to take the road most travel, which is the easy path, which is the pleasurable path. But what Anthony Robbins tells us is that eventually, if you take the tough road, you will eventually get to a place where nobody else has been and has many, many more rewards, many more spectacularly better rewards than those rewards that you would have had if you had just taken the easy road. So don't quit is the message. Rewards flow. And all you need to do, and this is a key message once again from the big man, all you really need to do is just to be a little bit better than the rest. Anthony Robbins reminds us that most champions, most people who are most talented, have just honed their skills in a half dozen areas or so. There's just a half dozen areas in which they've honed their skills. There's just a half dozen areas in which they are better than everybody else. And it's those half dozen skills, those half dozen areas, which mean that they are much better positioned to take advantage of those things that they have come across. So I just had a look in there. There's nothing much in that gun placement that is worthy of investigating and checking out. But it is good being up here. I'm at the entrance to Port Stephens. I'm on Mount Tomaree, and on the other side is Mount Yakabar, and these are the two entry gates, these mountainous entry gates into the harbour, which make it so special and so wonderful. So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where we've extended our vlogs by one more, where we've identified and talked about the importance of just pushing forward and the fact that good is no longer good enough. When I was young, we're all asked and told to try and be good at something, but as we get older, as the competition starts to bite and kick in, we are invited to think about life a little bit more deeply, and to know that if you're going to excel, if you're going to separate yourself from others, what you need to do is you need to be unique. You need to be better than everybody else, and you need to have skills which are a little bit better than everybody else. Because the bottom line is that in order to be an expert, in order to be a master, or in order to appear to be a master, is all you need to do is just to know a little bit more than the people that are with you. And just having a little bit of extra knowledge makes you a specialist, makes you a leader, makes you better than everybody else. So the art of learning, as we've learnt from the big man, is the art of adding the unknown to the known. And the more you add, the more you're capable of adding. The more you know, the more you're capable of knowing. And the more you do, you're more capable of doing. So once again, the big message from Anthony Robbins is to experience life, is to live with passion, is to do things with all your might, with all your heart, mind and soul, not to hold back, to release the valve and to go all in, full in everything you do, and to be an option thinker. And if something you're doing is not having the desired results, then change, but go in all in. Don't go in tempered, don't go in timid, because that's not going to get you anywhere, and that's certainly not going to give you the momentum that you need in order to get over the humps and through the sections of the road that create fear, uncertainty and doubt to most other people. So I'll just have a look here to see if there's any other paths which lead anywhere. As I say, I don't have the time today, but I'd like to do it with somebody else one day, is to try and identify a path that may lead somewhere else. This doesn't necessarily lead anywhere else, and this bush here, as you can see, is really, really thick. But I remember, as I said, somebody got to the top there, and I don't know how they got there, and I'll need to try and find out. But once you get to the top up there, the views are to die for. But what we don't want to do is die before we get there. Anyway, I'll have to speak to some locals and try and figure out. What I might do is go to Google Earth and take a look from Google Earth from the top and see where the paths are, because there must be some runoff paths. There must be some paths here where the water runs down from the mountain there and has created a path that people can walk up and walk down. I'll give it a go, but wishing you all the best. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode of All That I've Learned from Tony Robbins, where we learn things, we pass them on, because our mantra is very, very simple. Our mantra is live, learn, and pass it on. So let's see if I can take this path down here and get to the bottom without finding myself on my backside. Take care, yasas, and bye for now. I think it'll work. Just need to be patient and just keep the weight on my bottom foot. And we'll come down through here and hopefully go around and under. Take care, boys and girls, and we'll chat again soon.